If you had $10 in your savings account, it is now worth $9
95,
and $9.95, right?
$9.50.
No, $9.50. Yeah, even better. See, you're better at math than me.
I wish.
And that's across the board. So that's inflation across the board.
Let me put you on game.
So transitioning away from basketball, there's some interesting, social stuff that we like to talk about here and there. I actually wanted to transition this put you on game stuff to finances and the economy, because I think it'd be interesting for some of our listeners to, just get a different taste of some of the stuff that we're interested in. And so I was reading this Washington Post article that highlights a rising issue that we have in the country with inflation. And so for inflation has rose by 5% between May of 2020 and May of 2021, which is the biggest jump since 2008 and the Great Recession. And what this basically means is that your money is now worth 5% less than it was last year. So if you have $10, if you had $10 in your savings account, it is now worth $9 and
95,
$9.95, right?
$9.50.
No, $9.50. Yeah, even better. See, you're better at math than me.
I wish.
And that's across the board. So that's inflation across the board. When it comes to some certain industries, inflation is even worse. Hotel prices are up 10%. Airfare is up 24%. Used car prices are up. Washers and dryers are up 27%. Furniture is up 9%. Bikes are up 10%. Bikes, for that matter, right? Gas
Yeah.
prices have sharply increased as well, 56% over since last May. And then rent prices are increasing too, with the moratorium that's going to be expiring this summer on landlord and evictions. Some people kind of view this as a positive since the economy is kicking things back up into full gear, while others think that the government maybe spent a little too much with that $1.9 trillion relief package that was earlier this year. And the kind of the debate around this is that because some people think the increases are temporary, since the economy is gearing back up, the prices are going to correct itself, while others think that this short supply that amidst an increased demand is going to kind of kick things into a little bit of a frenzy and prices could get out of control. So some people think it's going to stabilize, other thinks that it might, turn out for the worse. The poor get affected by this the most, and people with fixed incomes, because such as like retirees and people who live on, public assistance, et cetera, because they can't really adjust that well to increase prices all of a sudden. And a lot of people can be potentially hurt by this. So, what I wanted to ask you is, have you felt the sting of these increased prices? And what do you think about whether or not it's going to stabilize? How do you feel about, your life and how the economy is impacting you at the moment?
For me, I drive a lot for work, so uh, gas prices are definitely affecting me. So if I feel like on a good, and when gas prices are good, I can typically fill up for like $19. But when they're like this, it takes like 33
Mm,
to fill up. So that kind of adds up over time, especially like when I'm getting gas like 3 times every 2 weeks, at a rate
yeah.
like that. So I'm noticing little things like when you say the inflation is increasing in certain areas, I'm like, yeah, our grocery bill has been a little higher. Like
Yeah.
just certain little things that you're paying for, or like trips, like you're looking at airline flights, and I guess they're just doing an overcorrection from last year when no one was flying and you could fly anywhere for dirt cheap, even though it wasn't like the wisest thing to do. And now,
Yeah.
like now that things have opened back up and they have to kind of recoup that money, they're kind of price gouging a little bit. So it's been interesting to watch. I was reading the same article as well, and I'm just hoping that the actions by the Federal Reserve and the government at large don't push us into another recession.
Yeah.
But I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen. But part of me is kind of optimistic in the sense that this country has been through so much over the last year. So maybe 5% inflation wasn't the worst thing that could have happened. I thought that we had I think we had so many different worse outcomes that could have possibly happened. And
Yeah.
that, I do think that it is a little bit sad also when you brought up the stimulus packages that we've gotten. I think it's a little bit sad that we as a country kind of have to debate whether or not those were necessary or whether they were too much, when for so many people it wasn't enough, or it was enough just to like keep them afloat, you know, because
Yeah.
we kind of dealt with something that was unprecedented. So I guess to answer your question, I feel uh, a little uneasy by seeing the increase in some areas, but uh, I feel a little bit optimistic that, things could have possibly been worse.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. I personally felt the sting as well. I don't fill up as much, but I have noticed the increased gas prices. That affects everybody. And then also I'm a renter. So if you own a home or if you live in a home, your mortgage rates aren't really going up or anything like that. So things kind of stay about the same. But as a renter, when you re-up every year with your lease, that those increased rent prices do have an effect. And thankfully I can adjust, but I know people who are struggling and who can't really afford to have their milk, or their eggs go up. I've noticed that organic food has increased as well. And now that you mentioned grocery prices, I'm like, oh yeah, my grocery dollars have gone up by like $20-$30. And so it's really it's annoying for me, but for I know other people, it could be a lot more devastating. So, obviously our hearts go out to them. And, as someone who likes to look for solutions, um, you know, there's not much an individual can do as far as protecting yourself against inflation, depending on what your financial situation looks like. But I have seen, this is not financial advice, by the way, investing in things like a home or investing in stocks actually can protect you and safeguard you to some degree from inflation, especially stocks that have an increased business as a result of inflation prices. So whether that's investing in travel companies, oil companies, other commodities, etc., these investment vehicles can at least put your money in a place that's growing along with inflation. Because if you just have your money sitting in a savings account, you're going to lose money over time. Your money tomorrow is going to be less than it is today. But if you are investing in something that's appreciating in value, you can offset the fact that your money is not, you can offset that and your money can actually increase with the times. So that's just something, you don't have to go out and put your whole life savings into a stock and try to gamble. But if you are wise with the investments, if you go for mutual funds and ETF stocks and things like that, you might be able to kind of safeguard yourself a little bit and ride the wave as it's going. So always keep your head above the water as much as you can, and be on the lookout for different things that can benefit you and your families. And then another interesting thing is that if your wages have increased from inflation, this makes it easier to, in theory, pay off your debt, because your debt from yesterday is worth less if you make more money now. So now is a good time to increase, your earning potential if your wages have increased, and throw money at your debt in order to get out of that, because Americans are in a lot of debt. So
that's what I was going to ask you, though. That was one thing that I was wondering about in terms of potential solutions, is that we've already had, like, if you look at inflation in this country from 1975, let's say, until now, like the dollar is worth significantly less, but also like we've drifted so far away from single income households. Like gone are the times where good old Jim Bob could go out to the work factory and then he can come home and provide for his wife Susie and their 3 kids. Like it's not that reality does not exist anymore. So we're now in the reality where we all have to work, and we all, for the not all, but the vast majority of us are underpaid for the jobs that we do. You know, we see a lot of people that will punch down, as far as let's say a teacher who looks at a fast food worker and wonders why their salaries are so similar, rather than wondering why they're both not getting paid more, you know.
Right.
So I wonder, with inflation going forward, if this is a permanent thing, or if it affects the economy, or if the dollar keeps losing value, will we actually see the adjustments from these corporations and from these employers, as far as actually paying their people more in a way that reflects the change in the worth of the dollar? Because I think people kind of get away with the okey doke when it comes to that, with paying people the same even though it's worth less, you know. So
Yeah, no, it remains to be seen. And it's up to us as voting citizens to vote people in power who are going to fight for the rights of workers. There's a lot of politic stuff that likes to divide us and that likes to put us against each other based on race, based on climate change and a whole bunch of other factors. But finances is something that affects all of us, whether you're white, black, Spanish, Asian, it don't matter. And if you value your work that you put in, again, stop punching down and let's realize, hey, let's demand our employees to pay us commensurate to the increases that they've also gotten over the last 40 years with inflation. CEO salaries have gone through the roof. Average worker salaries have kind of plateaued. So let's see that compound interest on the average blue white collar worker.
Them economics ain't trickling down, bro.
Yeah.
That drip has been mighty slow.
That's a fact, bro. So yeah, I like to bring up topics like this because I think it could be valuable for some of our listeners. And if you guys like this or want to see more content similar to this, or just have any other questions related to economics, write it down in a comment and let us know what you think.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely appreciate any kind of interaction you guys have with us as we grow.